Blessings and best wishes to all. It's with deep honor to be in community with you this evening. With so much going on in the world, you thought it proper to be here, and I don't take that for granted, right? You can take the boy out of organizing, but you can't take the organizing out of the boy. So, like, I welcome each of you. That's why I tried to call everybody's name before we got started, because I see and respect all of you as individuals. And your individual attendance is supporting me in my graduation. So I appreciate that. Um, and there's so much going on in the world right now. A lot of it is shocking, saddening, disappointing, and disillusioning. It's refreshing to come together in community. And some people say, albeit virtual, but as we learned through the pandemic, virtual is cool too. In fact, were it not for the concept of virtual community, the pandemic may have been like crazier than it had been. So allow me to thank you for trusting me and for allowing me to be vulnerable in my solicitations online, right? So like it was a deep honor to ask for help. I struggled with that. I was just like, I need folks. I don't want to sound too needy, but then I was just like, fuck it, I'm doing it, right? So just like, I need help. I need people. And one, it's true, but two, as I step more into teaching, it's important for men, Black men, men of color, to ask for help. It is okay to ask for help. And so thank you for answering my call for help. This class, like I said, is in part for my graduation for mindfulness certification. I've been taking this since February 2021. Like I said, I hope for 12 people. As you can see, we are well past 12. So deep honor for that. So if you're up to it, place your name, pronouns, location, and land acknowledgement if you're aware of it, just so we can have more of a virtual community here, right? So rather than just be squares, let's put a little, and you don't have to if you don't want to, but if you're up to it, please do. And while you're doing that, allow me to welcome each of you into the space, right? So as you are, camera on or off, you're welcome, right? All abilities, all identities, all emotional states, all economic status, all occupations or not, you're welcome, right? Like this is a space for all. One of the things I take pride in as a teacher is that I teach all people, right? And everything is welcome here. And in the interest of time, I'm not going to go too long into this, but I'd also like to lay the foundation for healing space by offering a few agreements. They are as follows: that we recognize the difference between impact and intent, that we assume best intention because language could sometimes be inexact. Like not everybody's been talking forever. Like I've been talking since I was 3. So I've got the gift of gab. Sometimes when we get in our feels, like words can be inexact. So assume best intention, even if words are inexact. That you're present and attentive to your needs, as well as the needs of the group. So if you need to be off camera, great. Like if you need to like peace out early, that's great. That we embrace a spirit of curiosity rather than critique of self and of others, and that we be free to try something on. Some of you have been in meditation before. Some of you probably don't meditate at all. Awesome. Like, I love that, like, the entire array is here. And also feel free to step away if something doesn't feel right. Like this is pretty basic and introductory. However, there may be certain concepts or things that I say or offer that may not feel right, and that's cool as well. So I would like to offer some acknowledgments. I acknowledge the land that I'm on the land of the Piscataway here in Anne Arundel County, Maryland, connecting to the full history of the land where I am, not the sanitized history that's fed to us, right? So the entire history of the land. I acknowledge the age and lineages of the practice that I'll be sharing. These teachings and concepts are rooted in Buddhist lineages over thousands of years and countless communities and cultures. My training for this program is rooted in the Thai forest tradition of Ajahn Chah, as shared by Jack Cornfield. I also acknowledge the lineage of Thich Nhat Hanh, who was the teacher of one of my teachers in the Zen lineage of Roshi Joan Halifax and the Upaya Zen Center. And lastly, but not leastly, I acknowledge my ancestors, like, because Lord knows I wouldn't be here without them. Those that came before me and those that came before us. And I want to name that we all have ancestors, many of whom endured challenges equal to or more profound than what we are experiencing now. Right? That doesn't diminish what we're experiencing, but we're here because of their resilience, right? And however you celebrate your ancestors, I encourage you to imagine them at your back as a foundation and as a sense of support, not just people on a family tree, right? Like, not just like stories in the past. They're present with you here and now. And I'd like to ask now, if you're inclined, to share your needs and aspirations and hope for tonight's session and for this course. I know I personally like to know how I can be of maximum service to you, right? Um, but I also know from lived experience, you don't get what you don't ask for, right? So place them in the chat if you want to. I'll be paying attention to that. And I'll just simply offer that my aspiration is to offer simple techniques from a compassionate place rooted in ancient wisdom that can be applied to increase peace of mind and reduce suffering in your life right now. I'll repeat that. My aspiration is to offer simple techniques from a compassionate place rooted in ancient wisdom that can be applied to increase peace of mind and reduce suffering in your life right now. So whether you show up for one class or all of them, I hope to impart something that can be of use to you in these crazy times, right? So a little bit of housekeeping before we dive in. I'm humbled that you chose to spend the evening with us and appreciate you helping me fulfill my requirements, right? You know, like, for those of you who are in the MMTCP program, we've been pushing this off for years, right? You know what I mean? Like, pretending like this shit wasn't going to happen. So it's finally here. So thank you for helping me fulfill my requirements. And also thank you for helping me do what I enjoy. Like, I enjoy helping people find and create conditions for peace of mind. You know, I didn't know that until the pandemic sprung on us, but I enjoy this. You know, one of the best compliments I got in my life was when I worked on Capitol Hill. Some of you heard the story before, but Sister Ayanna Presley came up to me in the hall one day and she was like, "Brother, let me tell you something about you." And if you know Ayanna, I was like, "Oh shit, like, what you got for me, sis?" And she was just like, "Brother, you so cool that when you walk into the room, the blood pressure drops." And I got all teary and I was just like, that's exactly what you say to yogis, sis. Like, that's the best. Like, that's the best compliment ever. So you're saying that my energy is so, whoo, right? And I got all teary-eyed and stuff. And she's like, I'm not lying. I was like, I know. That's why when you said, let me tell you something about you, that's why I got emotional, because I was like, whoa, right? So thank you for helping me do what I enjoy, right? It's really that simple. And tonight we will be exploring over the course of the series, we'll explore the 4 foundations of mindfulness, and in the following order: an overview of mindfulness and mindfulness of the breath and body, mindfulness of the thoughts, mindfulness of emotions, and then the practice of returning to the present moment. Yeah. And although attendance at all sessions is not required, we all got a lot going on right now. The course is designed to build upon itself, right? And instill basic practice over the course of the next 4 weeks that can stay with you, right? So, and expand your awareness to impact your life right now. So I will do my best, like I said, to leave you with something each week, but the course builds upon itself. And so again, this course is by donation, and it's based on the Buddhist principle of dana, so generosity. Like, several of you have known me for years, and that's why I said, Jamie, this is my shout out to you. I have not always been this mellow. I haven't always been this cheery and joyful. I haven't. And some of you have seen my transformation. And as I've adopted more yogic and Buddhist practice, and meditative practice. So I offer these freely, given the bounty that they've been for me, right? As a Black man in the United States, to walk freely on Capitol Hill and be told that your peace impacts the room, that's crazy town, right? So like, I offer it freely. And if you're inclined to donate, so those of you who've donated financially, thank you. But do as you see fit. If you got it, cool. If you don't, acceptable donations can also be your full attention, right? Consistent practice, so trying something on, telling others about the course, right? Or sharing on social media, right? There are other ways to pay it forward. The only thing I would say is do not allow consumptive mentality to rule. Like, donate something, right? Like, it can be a post or something like that, but do not fall prey to the ubiquitous extractive mentality that is in Western culture, right? So a donation doesn't have to be money, but if you have benefited from this, share it as freely as I'm sharing it with you. So how does all that sound? Good? Cool. So let's begin, right? If I'm being honest, I don't feel like I'm qualified to speak on mindfulness. I don't. My journey is truly a work in progress. But now that I think about it, perhaps that's as strong of a qualification as any, right? The ability to understand and articulate that I'm a work in progress, that mindfulness is not a noun per se, it's more of a verb, right? It's an action rooted in refining your awareness to create conditions for better understanding of yourself, the nature of things, and for deeper compassion. For those of you who are my Yale friends, y'all know I'm good with words, and I got a lot of them. That's a lot. It's a mouthful, so I'm going to dumb it down. So what does that even mean? I asked a dear friend who has guided me on the path for years. Years ago, this is actually funny. She suggested that I practice yoga to stop being perceived as an angry Black man. So I responded to her to mind her damn business and kick rocks. Right? That's the truth. So, but I asked her, like, perhaps she knew something about me that I didn't know about myself. But I asked her, because she's more plain spoken, what mindfulness would be. And here's what she replied. She's like, for me, mindfulness is a state of being which enables me to meet myself where I am physically, mentally, and emotionally. That's what she said. So shout out to the Midwest, because y'all keep it plain. The East Coast makes it tricky. Shout out to the Midwest. But for me, it is that simple. Mindfulness is a journey that begins with an invitation to pause and discover the dignity that exists beneath the accumulated notions of who we are and how we should act. So mindfulness is a chance to stop the train and question the shoulds and the oughts. Right? You should respond this way. Says who? Right? Some of the questions that guide us are: who are we outside of the stories we tell ourselves? Right? What is possible when we become more aware of our thoughts, actions, habits, and patterns? What is possible when we soften the edges of critique and begin to regard ourselves and others with more curiosity and compassion? Perfect example. You get stuck in traffic, someone tailgates you, like, you think it's all about you. Maybe they're rushing to the hospital or something. You know what I mean? Like, this motherfucker, there are all these things that happen, but when we pause and just see people as they are, see things, and I'll begin by saying this: we don't see things as they are, we see things as we are, right? And there's no such thing in control in life. Life is more about navigation than control. And in times such as ours, perhaps this wisdom holds the key for how we should approach ourselves in our current times, right? So when I reflect on my friend Shan's definition about mindfulness being a state of being, this begs the question: how do we get to the state of being? Right? It's all cute for it to be a state of being, but how do we get there? And in the course that I'm taking, The Power of Awareness, Jack Kornfield and Tara Brach say that the quality of mindfulness is the synthesis of two things. I'm quoting them here. The first is awareness, a clear seeing of what is present right now. And the other is loving kindness, a loving presence, not judging or trying to manipulate or evaluate, but loving care from which a wise response can be born. So to synthesize that, mindfulness can simply be stated as non-judgmental, caring attention. And if we unpack this a bit, awareness is the quality of mind and spiritual consciousness that allows us to view ourselves more as object than subject. The ability to question whether what we see or feel is actually happening, right? Just because you see it and perceive it doesn't mean it's real. There's a whole other story that's involved in that. Are we reliving something? Are we projecting? Are we making something up? And again, that's how it goes right now. And when we notice the stories we may be telling ourselves, we can hold ourselves in the arms of loving kindness, which is essentially the compassion that bears witness to what you see without judgment. I'll give you an example from my life. The first 40 years of my life were ruled by anger. Being a Black man in the United States, like constantly harassed by cops, like not getting promotions, all these things, like anger ruled me. And as I got more into yoga and meditation, I began to see that my response was rooted in anger. And rather than beat myself up, I would be like, yeah, you have a right to be pissed, right? Right? It's okay that you're pissed, right? Like the entire world is set up for your destruction. But once I saw it that way, once I gave myself that compassion, I was able to detangle myself from the anger and manipulate the system to my advantage compassionately, right? So once I stopped being pissed at everything, I started being more joyful and started meeting like awkward situations with kindness and just truth and honesty. And again, as eloquently and succinctly rendered by Jack Kornfield, mindfulness can be called the art of living, being present with your life and not lost in the fantasies of the future or the reruns of the past, but to actually be fully where we are. And the good thing about mindfulness, from my experience, is it's like a muscle. You can train it, right? You can consistently practice it, and you'll be surprised by the results. Another story I like to share from my yoga and meditative practice is that I started practicing yoga to not curse out my boss. Many of y'all have heard this story before. And by practicing daily, when they fired me, I responded with kindness. It blew me away, right? They fired me via text message. And I was like, thank you for how poorly you treated me, because you gave me the opportunity to view wisdom with grace. I mean, to deal with adversity with grace. And then I called my mom afterwards. I was like, this yoga shit is crazy. You know what I mean? Like, I just got fired via text message and thanked them. You know, Captain Curse Out, like Mr. Fire, is like, thank you for how poorly you treated me because I've got wisdom. It's like, what is happening, right? But it's because I consistently came back to a place of non-judgmental awareness, where I consistently came back home. And by training this capacity of presence, you calm and quiet the mind, open the heart, and learn to see and work with the different energies of life. Like I said, I stopped my role, saw that anger was ruling me, and was like, I made a conscious choice to try and be less angry. Or when it came up, I held space for it as opposed to pretending that it didn't exist. So the dance between all of these things, the give and take between like patience and loving kindness and these sorts of things, is what makes mindfulness more of a verb than a noun. So I'll pause there because I've talked for a bit. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Or either you can raise your hand or you can put it in the chat, but just want to pause there because I put a lot out there. And it's okay not to have it's okay not to have anything too. Tam, what you got, sis?
So, Reggie, I always struggle with I've had a yoga practice for over a decade now.
Mm,
Michelle Gaza got me into it, and that's the
yeah.
best. Right. The best gift ever. She even here, I can't tell. But
Right.
here, yes, she right as we are her disciples or like a part of her community. She's always wherever we are. But for me, what has always frustrated me, even to this moment, is being inside of uh, an empire of white supremacy and patriarchy, and feeling like, oh, be mindful, be loving, be compassionate is one more way to justify the fact, like the very real fact that
Yeah.
Europeans outside of Europe have been oncogenic all over the rest of the globe. And
Right.
so it's like, I don't like, I want to be joyful in the moment, the legitimate spots and spaces of joy that I actually do experience. But I also want to always give, like, shine a light on that truth.
Right.
And so I don't, so how is it that you can maintain equanimity, if even equanimity is the objective? Because maybe it isn't. Like,
Right.
so in maybe my question is, in your mindfulness,
Right.
how is it that you navigate a space where sons and daughters of Europe often are the ones promulgating the benefit of mindfulness, and are never the ones talking about all the pain that their people have caused all over the globe?
Right. No, so I love the question, and you asking the right person for that, right? Like because like you, you, Tammy and I go way, way back. We've had conversations for years. Tam, I think it's this simple, right? Like for me, and this is what I've said in like the Zen spaces, because let's be honest too, right? Like there's a difference between like communities of color who practice these things and like communities not of color that practice these things. Like some people tend to whitewash this stuff, no pun intended, and pretend like everything's beautiful. I'm come to it from a standpoint of this is that like for me to speak the truth with compassion is the highest truth, right? So I'll give you an example. Like, so I quit my job from Move On a year ago because I was essentially in a situation where I was being told to be quiet and stay in my place. And I've given interviews where people are like, you put them on blast. I was like, I put them on blast because they did it, right? You don't want your feelings hurt, then don't treat people like shit, So I think there is, at least as I practice it, there is a space for truth. And then once I lay that truth down, I'm free, right? So when I lay the truth down, that's like my personal Juneteenth. You know what I'm saying? So you're in your fields, but you're the one that did the thing to me. I just told everyone what you did, and like you wouldn't be in your fields if you didn't act that way. If you didn't promulgate this stuff, then you wouldn't be all upset. Like if you were honest and truthful, everything would be okay. And that's just one example that's top of mind because I quit my job a year ago, and so the anniversary is fresh in my mind. But like for me, Tim, it's that simple where I take a deep, so something happens, I notice what happens, breathe in, breathe out, see how I'm reacting, then I speak. As opposed to speaking from anger, I notice what anger has to say, harvest that wisdom, and then speak with wise action. Does that make sense? Cool. Gratitude for the question. Carlotta loved the honesty and the authenticity, so that's where we are. Any other questions, dear friends? Either put it in the chat or raise your hand or what have you. Yeah, Verdell says I'm learning to be more like water. Yeah, Verdell, it's mindfulness for me is that fluidity, right? Rather than the rigidity of a story that has always been told, or either that I've told myself, or to Tammy's point, a story that has always been visited upon me, pausing and then being like, is this even real? Like, do I even want to kick it with this? And then if it's a yes, I proceed with like compassion and truth. If it's a no, I shed it like a skin of a snake, and then I slither on. You know what I mean? So let's put all this into practice, right? So, and this is actually like a perfect segue. When I was driving home today from running errands, the following analogy about mindfulness occurred to me. I was approaching a red light and it turned yellow. Now, what do most people do when they see a yellow light? They haul ass, right? Right? They hit the accelerator and fly. Like, I ain't stopping for nothing. Um, they blow right through it, right? I ain't saying that about nobody here. I'm just saying like humanity writ large. You know what I mean? I ain't saying you, I'm just saying it happens in the human condition, right? But how appropriate of an analogy is that for our lives, right? Especially now as we shift from the pandemic. Everything seems rushed. Everything seems rushed, as if people are trying to make up for lost time. And so perhaps for me, perhaps the most powerful lesson of the pandemic is the gift of slowing down, right? The gift of resetting and then proceeding from that new perspective. That's much of the reason why I'm here before you now. You know what I mean? Like the pandemic stopped everything. I got quiet. My ancestors and my teachers were like, you should teach. And so like I was like, I'm not gonna do it because I'm human and stubborn. But then I decided to do it, and here we are. So think about that in the context of what I said. So mindfulness is the yellow light. Slow down, pause, and then after pausing, go. Don't just blow through the yellow light, into a situation without awareness or whatever. Like, use the yellow light as a chance to reflect, as a chance to reset. Like, I had the dopest, like, 2-minute meditation, like, at the light. I was just like, oh my God, I'm really falling for this stuff. Like, I'm coming up with, like, analogies at a traffic light before I teach. Like, this shit is crazy. You know what I mean? So, like, that is what, that analogy just seems perfect though, right? Mindfulness is the yellow light, not from a cautionary tale, but pause, then stop, pers- review, and then proceed, right? So, let's put all of that into practice, shall we? So let's begin with a body scan. But before we do any of that, take the next 30 seconds or so to make organic movements to prepare the body for an extended period of stillness, right? So if you want to do side bends, you want to like shake off, you want to get up, I mean, you can get out of the chair or settle in, whatever works for you here. And notice what the body is saying to you. Begin to cultivate an intimate awareness of what's going on in the body right now. Use this as the pause. About another 20 seconds or so of whatever seems natural, whatever seems true. Now find a posture that allows you to feel relaxed, supported, spacious, and dignified. Using the word dignified because it is an act of high dignity to treat yourself, to care for yourself. Notice what has shifted in the past minute or so with respect to the body and the movements that you organically offered yourself. Notice your energy. Are you tired? Do you have extra energy? These basic questions and these basic awarenesses are keys to the mindfulness practice. Just asking yourself, how am I doing? What is my energy? And as you soften into this place of curiosity, let's start at the feet. So if you're seated in a chair, feel your feet on the ground. If you're in a cross-legged seat, feel the feet wherever you find them. And feel the feet on the ground. That's simple. Feel the ground as a sense of support. Are the feet tight? Can you wiggle the toes to create space? Or are you good to go? But notice what you notice beginning at our grounding and our foundation. Then from the feet, allow your awareness to rise up the legs. How are the legs feeling? I have perpetually tight hips, so that's always a question for me that I'm like, so how are we doing today? But how are your legs doing? Tight, loose? Rather than just seeing them in the collective, focus your individual attention on them. And in the same way we played with the feet, is there a way, either through the breath or through relaxing the mind, to relieve stress in the legs? Shifting our awareness from the legs to the belly. How is the belly doing? Is there hunger? Is there tightness in the musculature? Can you breathe into the belly? Does that help you find more space, more grounding, more awareness? Are there any adjustments you can make to relieve stress in the abdomen? Shifting from the abdomen to the heart and shoulders and the arms. The arms are an extension of the heart. How are the shoulders and the heart doing? Can you shift the breath into the chest to allow for an expansion in the back body? Maybe subtle shoulder shrugs. If there's tension that you notice, that movement can alleviate. But bringing that same capacity of non-judgmental loving awareness to the shoulders. And then shifting either through breath or movement to give that area more space. Shifting our awareness from the heart, shoulder, arms, specifically to the hands. Are there tension in the hands? Maybe you open and close the hands. Maybe you give yourself jazz hands or star fingers to remind yourself that the hands are meant to be playful, not rigid, looking like triceratops. No shade on triceratops, but ain't none of y'all dinosaurs from my perspective. How might you, through your awareness and or breath, bring relief to the hands? Two more stops on our awareness train. How's the jaw? Notice if there's tension in the jaw. There likely is. Maybe you open and close the jaw. Maybe you exhale with a right? Is there a way that either through breath, awareness, or movement that you can relieve tension in the jaw? Jaw and neck. And last stop are the eyes, forehead, and crown of the head. Is there a way for you to soften the eyes? Is there a way for you to soften the brow? And noticing what's going on without judgment. Just, oh, you're tight. How about I blink my eyes? How about I touch my forehead? Is there anything you can do with breath or movement to relieve tension in the eyes? Now, in conclusion, expand your awareness to the entire body. So we went from the feet to the crown, and either through feeling a sense of weighted connection to the ground or by focusing on the breath, notice what you notice. For those for whom deep breath is inaccessible, stay with an awareness of the body and the tension that we've released in our communal practice. For those focused on the breath, what's the texture? Is there a temperature? Notice what you notice. And then maybe the breath deepens into the belly, maybe it deepens into the chest, maybe it stays subtle. But choosing your anchor, whether it be touching your fingers or feeling the feet on the ground or deepening the breath, and spending 1 minute with an awareness of that anchor. Present, refreshed, increasingly relaxed. Building the muscle of spacious, loving attention, and divorcing ourselves from the various stories we tell ourselves or the habituated patterns that cause undue harm. Gently slowly bring yourself back into the body. Maybe place the hands on the knees and stroke down. Maybe touch the face to have a more grounded presence. And as we shift from practice to question and answer, my question for you is, how was that? Either put it in the chat, or if you have no words, I'll take that too. And did you connect to a sense of spaciousness? Did you connect to a sense of beyond, which is your true nature? I see you live free. And feel free, everyone, to read everyone's commentary. Tammy, what you got?
I'm sorry, it takes too long for me to type, and this is easier to talk.
You
But
cool?
I actually do have a mindfulness practice, and I've been out of work this week because of COVID. I am the one who has it, and I have therefore been able to take advantage of that practice since I don't have to get up as early as I normally would to commute to work. And what I was thinking was, wow, in answer to your question, how was that moment that we just experienced? It was amazing. It's always a welcome opportunity to be invited to sit in stillness and experience the fullness of oneself, I believe. So thank you. And it was wonderful to share that moment with all those present. So thank you all for that.
Absolutely. Well, health to you, sis. We can't have you sick. Health, and blessing to you. Anyone else care to share or have any questions? I love the responses, and so if there are any questions, I'll field them for sure. But again, my question for you is like, was that difficult? Right? Can you imagine how and that was only about 10 minutes, or it really wasn't that long, right? So imagine if you did this twice a week, right? Or, for my overachievers, because like my people find me, um, twice a day, whatever. And it doesn't even have to be 10 minutes. Y'all, when I worked on Capitol Hill, Beth said her dog loved it. That's great. Um, when I worked on Capitol Hill, sometimes my mindfulness practice was touching these prayer beads, being like, oh, Lord. And that would be it. Right? Not this guided imagery of like whatever I just led you through. Sometimes the practice is just like, sweet Jesus, thank you. Like it can be that simple. But what for me, it's creating that pause before like a stressed out response, or like you say something that doesn't, or you just do more harm to yourself by, like I said, blowing through that red light, or blowing through the yellow light, because I ain't stopping for no yellow light. I gotta go somewhere. Sometimes the place you need to go is here. Deeper breath, more relaxation, those sorts of things. Eleanor says, I think the hardest part is the initial pause. Right, for sure. But I know this from lived experience, it gets easier. Like the fact that I'm teaching a practicum about mindfulness shows you that if anybody, if I can do it, anybody can do it. Like if you look up overachiever in the dictionary, it's me in a b-boy stance because I don't want to sit like everybody else. You know what I mean? It's like, right. So the consistency for me has allowed me to like clear space within myself, and as I clear space within myself, I can hold space for the people, and that has been the biggest gift, especially in the past 2 years, because I remember when the pandemic started. This is how Active Peace got started. um, Everyone was freaking out except for me, and I was just like, cracking jokes with people about everyone buying toilet paper for a respiratory ailment. And then I was like, yo, how you joking about a pandemic, son? You know what I mean? Like, for real? Like, that's what you putting on earth right now. And it was because of like the consistency, right? It's because I was just like, oh, this is just this, right? So I didn't buy into the story of frantic. I bought into the story of it's a respiratory ailment. I need to cover my mouth and stay away from folks, right? That was easier for me because of the consistency of what I offered. Um, any questions or comments, or either raise your hand, put them in the chat, unmute. Yeah, like I'm not the mute police. Other people be tripping on that. That stuff is boring. Let me read through some of these comments.
Reggie.
Yes. Hey, Beth.
Thank you. A lot of what you said, just you really have made me feel very validated. But well, let me rephrase that. You've guided me to give myself validation, and I appreciate that. There's just I think the good people are the ones that suffer the most. So I tell myself that sometimes, but we just trudge through. And I just really am honored that you are providing this for us tools. And I'm just so excited to see I mean, you have 40, 42, 43, 44 people, and we're all going to take what we got tonight and extend it out. So, I've got chills. It's nice to be a part of this. And yeah, thank you for that. And seriously, when you told us to a couple times, you said take a deep breath, and my dog was like, ah, and he made the little. You said even make that noise, and he did it. It was great. So
I
love to
received
all,
that.
blessings. Thank you.
Blessings to you. That's great. Thanks for the tear laugh. I needed that. Anyone else have anything else to share? Otherwise, we'll have a quick silent practice and be done. But again, like I'm humbled and honored for your comments. Humbled and honored for just the way that we've come together. And it was super. Chelsea, what you got?
I raised my hand because I was waiting for you to finish. I didn't want to interrupt you.
I mean, you know me. Chelsea has been in one of my classes. She knows I can filibuster. So, like, rather than me filibuster, like, I will honor my student and take your question because I can go to outer space quick. You know that.
I don't really have a question today, but I just wanted to say thank you. Um, it's been difficult, right? Like it's been difficult just what's going on in the world and then just in my personal life. And so much of this practice is just showing up, right? And every time I show up to my sit, well, whatever that looks like, whether it's in like my bed or on my couch or my mat, like it's such a gift, right? But
Mm,
sometimes just getting to that moment is the hardest thing. Um, and so doing it in community this evening, it felt like a coming home to myself and to all of y'all who I don't even know except for you and Kim, right? So I just wanted to say thank you for holding this space tonight. For those of us who hold space for others, it's a real honor to have that space held by someone else. So thank you.
my honor. Always good to hear from you. And Starla, shout out to you for ministering to something I didn't see. Um, so Ingrid put something in the chat. And Sister Starla, in her ministerial awesomeness, said, "Extend the kindness you imagine freely that you give to others." Our sister, right? So part of the mindfulness practice is being kind to self, because I know this from lived experience. You can't give what you don't have, right? You know what I mean? Like, in addition to the B-boy stance of overachiever, I was also the B-boy stance in the dictionary of like self-loathing, right? So I had to create conditions for me to love myself so profoundly, and then from that love here we are. You know what I mean? So like me giving myself permission to be upset or angry or these sorts of things, and me not judging that was hard. But once I started doing it, it got easier. Then I could offer the same compassion to someone else, right? Like, oh, Reggie, you had a bad day, or yeah, brother, they cut you off in traffic. Yeah, it was right for you to feel like cursing that person out. You know what I mean? You didn't, so hooray. Or you did. Next time, try not to do it, right? So, mindfulness for me is like my mom. You know what I mean? Just like you didn't do this, maybe try better next time, or you did do this, hooray. But it's just that consistent level of encouragement to step into a story that is truly you, which is our true nature, which is love and compassion and truthfulness. Even as when Tammy and I were talking, like the most loving, compassionate thing you can say to someone who's oppressing you is stop it, or I'm not doing this anymore. It's not like, oh, everything's awesome. It's like, no, this is my boundary. You stepped over my boundary. I've had enough. That's compassion as well. And that's regardless of race, creed, or color. Like the system that we live in is designed to usurp and destroy. So like you setting boundaries of what you will and will not allow is an act of radical compassion as well. And I know from my lived experience, mindfulness, or so for instance, I mean, I'll share one more example and then we'll have a brief practice out. This happened yesterday. I spent the past 4 months of my life negotiating a lease for commercial real estate. And yesterday, one of my friends from Yale is a commercial attorney, and I was like, sis, look at this for me. Because I don't think in contracts, and her being her, she was like, this has to change, and it's good to go. So I sent the lease back to the landlord and said, could you change this? Where do I send the deposit? Y'all, he said, I don't want to do this anymore, and rescinded the lease. My mindfulness practice felt anger rising in my chest. Right? My mindfulness practice felt my stomach get tight. Right? And then my mindfulness practice was like, brother, go outside. Like you right, because this is absolute bullshit. It's okay for you to be pissed off right now. You know what I mean? You put 4 months into this and this boy got all white boy upset and decided not to do it no more. You know what I mean? Like it's okay for you to be angry. And it's also okay for you to go outside and you dodged a bullet. And thank goodness you did not sign a contract for multiple thousands of dollars for a year and that this person revealed themselves to you. So my mindfulness practice kept me from calling this guy and being like, are you serious? Even me, that was yesterday. And my mindfulness practice also was like, go into your dojo with your gongs and sound bowls, turn down the light and sing. Right? As opposed to calling somebody and arguing for something that the universe clearly doesn't want you to have. Right? So I share that story again, and I've shared this with some people who come to me regularly. I am the teacher who is just like you. Like we go through this stuff, right? I did not have an enlightened response to the withdrawn lease. I was just like, this is bullshit. That was my immediate response. And then, like, my mindfulness practice kicked in, was just like, yeah, it's bullshit. That's true. But you don't need to, like, suck your teeth in, though. Like, you don't need to have that stress in your jaw, right? You don't need to be upset. Like, Candace and I were talking about the gift of losing, right? Like, you lost the lease. Hooray. Like, give gratitude that you don't have to go to small claims court when they show their ass in 6 months, right? So that's what mindfulness practice gave me yesterday. Right? So I'm not the teacher that's going to be like, and everything was fine and it was love and light. No, I got pissed and then I had to remember that it's okay to be pissed. And then I was like, okay, now that it's okay to be pissed, how do we take this stress out of my face? Like, how do I like shield my energy from all this stuff? So that's one story that I'll offer that's contemporary. So it's with deep gratitude that I bow before y'all. We're going to have a silent practice for about 2 minutes. And we're going to end on time because I believe in that. Like for those of you at MMTCP, you know, they're like, you should have a 90-minute practice. I'm like, for what? Right? Like we got in, we got blissed out, we go on with our lives, right? So find that same seat that allows you to feel relaxed, dignified, supported, spacious, and comfortable. Notice if tension has re-entered the body. Give it the invitation to depart. And then for the next 60 seconds, whether it be feeling the ground beneath you or touching your fingertips or breathing in and out at your pace, find an anchor that allows you to revisit the spaciousness that we co-created moments ago. And for the next 60 seconds, I'll leave you in silence as you are nourished not only by your practice, but by our communal practice. It is my hope that my aspiration to give you practical tools in this class has been fulfilled. It is my hope that if I've caused harm to you, that you know that it was unintentional, and please let me know if I've done so I can make recompense. I bow before each of you with gratitude for you showing up for you and we. Please show up over the next several weeks if you can. Tell someone else about it. And until the next time I have the pleasure of your company, love, grace, and peace. Ashe. I'll hang out if anyone has any questions or comments. I'm not just gonna peace out, but like if you want to hang, go for it. If you gotta go, that's what's up.
Reggie, what is your Cash App or PayPal or GoFundMe? Like, what is your way that you receive remuneration?
Oh, Reggie Global.
Thank you. And on a dot, like $sign. Can you put the handle in the chat, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely, Monica. Absolutely.
Be well.
You too, Glam Slam.
This was awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, Christy, good to see you. Thank you. Brandon, thank you.
Thank you, Reggie. See you next time.
Absolutely. Thank you, Starla. Thanks for the ministry. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Reggie.
Absolutely, Lori. Blessings to you. That puzzle's amazing.
Yeah.
Hey, Reggie, I'd like to talk to you about Spirit Rock.
Oh, for sure.
For real. And I had no idea you did Thai forest. That's what's been helping me through the pandemic. It really gave me joy to hear that.
Right
I practice with the nuns at Aloka Vihara.
Okay. Wow. Let's talk. It's good to see you.
Love them. Come join me one day.
You put it out there. You know I'll take you up on it.
It's going to be great.
All right, fam, I'm gonna let you go, but I guess we're gonna be doing this for the next 4, so 3 more.
3 more. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. Namaste.
You go. Blessings. Heal well.
Thank you.
Of course. Thank you, Alistair, Jenny, and Karina. Blessings, love, and grace.